My point is, when are you and the rest of the media going to demand that Kamala Harris come out and answer questions in an unscripted format about where she stands for this country, as opposed to continuing to focus on what Donald Trump said today? 4 years ago, Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Could you imagine a more insulting comment? Joe Biden is presuming to judge the political views of 1/8 of our fellow citizens based on their skin color. Did you ever ask Kamala Harris to condemn his remarks?
There are
Did you ever ask him or ask her if that was racist?
This is a question. You're a Republican senator, so I want to ask you about the Republican nominee.
Did you ask Kamala Harris? Caitlin, did you ask Kamala Harris why she's willing to serve as vice president for a man she essentially called racist and a segregationist?
Kamala Harris has actually, as you mentioned, become a bit of a flashpoint here. She's been pretty invisible. She has not done a press availability in, really since she's been picked. And look, it's getting late. I mean, this is her. She has been the running mate for about half the time that, it is between now and the election. And that's become a bit of a mystery. Now, the campaign would say that they will do these. They're just waiting for the right time, and the debates will probably move the needle far more than anything they can do in individual media presences. But still, it is becoming an issue, and it's something certainly, in the parochial world of the press that.
Sorry to keep you guys out in the heat. Okay.
Hey, welcome back. It's your man Wise, and today we got to check out this video, man. Charlamagne runs to CNN. He is flat out in panic mode right now because his Democratic overlords are telling him, you got to keep the pander up. You got to keep the pander up. But just like Angela Rye and a few others out there, I guess, black, quote unquote, journalist space who are basically in charge of rallying the black folks to keep them on the Democratic plantation, the message isn't working nowhere near like it used to. It's not as effective. Now, we know the Democratic Party, they do have a pretty loyal base, but there are a lot of black folks that are moving away from the party and moving off of the plantation, and they're no longer willing to just vote blue no matter who based on identity politics. They're just not. So I got questions. We all have questions. As y'all seen in the beginning clips there, why won't the mainstream media demand that this lady starts to sit in some interviews and ask some unscripted questions? Why hasn't that happened yet? She's been the presumptive nominee now for what, going on 2 weeks? And she hasn't sat down and had any unscripted conversations. Why? Why hasn't that happened? Why won't she show up anywhere where they cannot control the narrative? Why don't we know what her policies are? Why aren't those listed on her website? Why? And why don't more of you have the same questions that I just asked? Why is it that you have folks out there willing to support this lady and they don't know what she believes in? They don't know what policies she wants to implement. Why? You got to get off this racial idolatry or this gender idolatry. You got to get off of it. This is the United States of America. This is the most important country in the world. As we go, so does everyone else. Who sits in that position means a lot to everybody around the world. And things are crazy right now. Inflation through the roof. Gas prices crazy. Food prices are crazy. Our school systems aren't where they need to be at. Our infrastructure is crumbling. We have a lot of issues in this nation that need to be addressed. Not to mention, we look weak on the world stage right now. Questions need to be asked, and we need answers. We're going to get into this video, man, because Charlamagne, you know what time it is with him, but he runs to CNN, and he's doing everything that he can to hold on to those butter biscuits. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. Let's get into the video.
Showed up. Those are the exact words that former President Donald Trump is using to defend his appearance at the National Association of Black Journalists convention yesterday, an appearance in which he questioned Harris's race.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Of course, Harris is both and has been very clear about that. She spoke extensively about it. In fact,
she hasn't been clear. And to be honest with you, based on some investigative information or some investigative journalism by some really smart people out there, come to find out she has very little African ancestral, in her, if any. Her father himself came out and said that he is of Irish and Hindu descent. And we know that her mother is, from India, Southern India at that. I don't understand why she's standing on it. Why not just say, I'm Indian, and just stand on that? We wouldn't even be having these conversations if she didn't flip-flop back and forth. So I don't understand it.
Over the years, and to Charlamagne the God, host of the Breakfast Club radio show, she talked about it.
I'm black.
Yes.
And I'm proud of being black.
Absolutely.
And I was born black. I will die black. And I'm proud of being black. And I'm not going to make any excuses for anybody because they don't understand.
All right, Charlamagne the God's out front. He's also the author of a new book called Get Honest or Die Lying, Why Small Talk Sucks, an analysis of the moment in which we all live, this polarized world that we are living in. So Charlamagne, Trump's not backing away from the controversy. Today he went online, he shared a photo of Harris wearing a sari in a family photo, and he writes about it. Your warmth, friendship, and love of your Indian heritage are very much appreciated. Okay, so that's what he did today. Let me just ask it to you this way, though, Charlamagne. Does he deserve credit, as he says, for showing up?
He should deserve credit. They won't give it to him because they're haters, but that man showed up. I don't know if you guys know this, but there hadn't been a Republican candidate for president show up to an NABJ event in 20 years. 20 years. Now, these are also the same people that complain that they can't get access to the president. They can't get access to presidential candidates. They can't get access to presidential debates. These are those same people, but yet they're upset. They're frustrated. One, because they even had the nerve to invite him. Somebody, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if she was the president, CEO, or whatever the case, resigned behind it. But I thought you guys are journalists. Aren't journalists supposed to be objective? Really? You're supposed to just be there to ask the questions, to relay the information to the people. You're not supposed to choose a side.
Peace, Aaron. How are you, first and foremost? No, does he deserve credit? No, he doesn't deserve credit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't give a damn about any of this, and neither should you. Like, nobody in the media should care. Donald Trump doesn't have any new tricks. He focuses on identity. He focuses on race. He focuses on gender. He makes white America think that the changing demographics of this country are a threat to their livelihood, and he makes them believe if we don't take things back to the way they were, probably 1950 something, then America as they know it will be ruined. It's just a distraction. Like Public Enemy had a album called Fear of a Black Planet. Trump tried to scare people with the fear of a black and brown America, and we have to stop falling for it. Like, we just
completely disagree with him. Completely 100%, 1000% disagree with his opening statement here. And here's why. This is the same dude that told President Biden he's got to pick a black woman. This is also the same dude that allowed, more or less, President Biden to say, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. These are also the same people that tell us that we have to get behind this black woman. So you can't say we got to get out of this identity politics when it's y'all that started this from the beginning. Now, I would assume that Trump's campaign, they want to talk about the policies. Let's talk about the policies. But we can't talk about policies with Kamala because we don't know what her policies are. We don't know what she wants to stand on other than pregnancy terminations. No one else knows. She's been there stuck. And then at the rally down in Atlanta, when they say, when you got Quavo out there talking about she's the first African-American, how is she African-American? A term that I do not agree with, nor do I believe in, but how is she that? When her mother is Indian, her father is from Jamaica. It just doesn't make sense. So these are the same people that say, we got to stop talking about identity politics because this situation is a sour spot for them because they know what time it is. So they want to move things away from it, and they want to move us away from talking about who she is, because the thing is, let's keep it a buck. If she is willing to lie about who she is as a person and her upbringing, If she's willing to lie about that, this lady talked about busing. She went to school, all of her schooling in Canada. If this person is willing to lie about that, what else is she willing to lie about?
We just have to stop falling for it.
All right. Like, yeah. All right, so today, though, you talk about it. You tackled it on your show because it's out there. People are talking about it. One of your callers actually called in and said something about it that I wanted to play for everyone so you could explain sort of how this makes you think and feel. Here's the caller.
Man, to be honest, Kamala Harris, she already said that she wasn't black. It's all over everything. She done had interviews. Yeah. I understand. But she already said that she's not black. She identifies as an Indian. When she was running and she did all of that at California. Yes, she has.
No, she hasn't.
Yes, she has.
Listen, have you ever read her book?
No, I don't read. I won't. Say what now?
In her book, she specifically talks about how, her mom definitely instilled her Indian heritage in her, but also told her she was a black woman and raised her to be a proud black woman.
They have an interview. She has a verbal interview with a white woman, and she says that she is not black. She is Indian.
So which one is it? We're going to read the foolery that they put in these books when we know typically they have ghostwriters, and we also know that they tend to stretch the truth. Her mother ain't tell her nothing about being no black woman. I'd put any amount of money on it. If y'all know anything about Indians over there, they don't necessarily care for darker colored people like that. Even those that are in her own country, over in India. So you're not going to tell me that her mother brought her up talking about she a black woman. We're just not going to believe it. We're just not going to believe it, man. And the fact that you got this dude out here pushing his foolishness, it makes everybody look at him sideways. But Charlamagne the Fraud's credibility, it's been shot for quite some time.
Lord have mercy.
So what do you do about that?
What do I do? Is I tell everybody not to be distracted. And I would say the same thing to the vice president. All the vice president has to do is stay on message. All these conversations about what's black, who's black, forget all that. How you going to put money in people's pockets? How you going to keep people safe? That's what both candidates need to be talking about over the next 95 days. We all know Kamala Harris is black, and we all know she's Indian. And we also know Donald Trump is a bigot, and we know he's divisive. I don't need the media running Donald Trump's greatest hits over and over for the next 95 days. Donald Trump, as of right now, has no real strategy against the vice president. So they're going to say she's a DEI hire. They're going to attempt to weaponize her not having kids. They're going to question her blackness. Ignore it all. Aaron, listen.
But it's you all that started this. It's people like you. Had y'all not made it a mandate that the Biden administration chose a black woman, if y'all didn't make it mandatory, this wouldn't be a conversation. No one would call her a DEI hire if y'all wouldn't have made it and said, hey, we gave a list of 20 names. You got to choose off of these 20 names. Y'all put yourself in this situation. So you can't be upset when you make a mandate that it has to be a person of a, specific ilk. Not the best person, not the most qualified individual, none of that. Y'all said it's got to be someone black and it has to be a woman. That's what y'all said. So then when someone that gets chosen solely based off of that, y'all are upset when people call them a DEI hire. Y'all get upset behind it. But he never came out and said this person's qualified because they've done this. They helped pass this legislation. They did this. They did this. They never said that. We still don't know what she's accomplished since she's been in the Senate. No one knows what her accomplishments are, of her being vice president. No one's really spoken to her. If it's not a prepared statement, you don't get anything out of her. She can't sit there and just answer questions. Again, we're going on 2 weeks as the presumptive nominee, and no reporter has sat down and just had a conversation with her. Why?
And I'm not taking it personally, but I do think it's important in part because of that caller.
I'm media too, though.
I know, but too. Yeah, no, I understand, but that caller calls in, and whether it should or shouldn't, sometimes it just is. If it gets into the ether and it starts affecting how people think and feel, then that becomes an actual problem. How do you deal with that? When you get calls like that, you actually have an opportunity to interact with someone to try to explain. Do you feel like people hear you?
Yes, I have no problem telling that young man he's bugging. Well, or you could say he's half right? Because, yes, the vice president has said she's Indian, but she also says she's black because she's both And that's why we need to ignore it all. The media should focus on whatever candidate is talking about the issues. Anything else is not worth the airtime. How many times is Donald Trump going to run the same trick over and over and over, and we continue to fall for it and be distracted? Focus.
Is Kamala Harris talking about the policies? Is she talking about how she's going to lower this inflation? How she going to bring these gas prices down? How she going to bring these food prices down? Has she had that conversation yet? A couple of rallies, but I've seen them. I have not heard anything along those lines about how she's going to make life better for the American people. Do you guys realize that you have people that's been out of work for 6 months, a year and a half? Because this economy is trash. I know they want to tell you that, oh man, the economy's booming, this, that, and the third, the stock market. Folks can't find jobs. You have people that just graduated from college complaining because the companies that are hiring entry-level, junior-level positions, they want people with 5 to 10 years of experience. Does that sound like a market that's booming? Where is the conversation around that? In the NABJ, they had an opportunity to ask Trump about his policies, and they chose not to do so because they're more concerned with pleasing the Democratic Party than getting the answers that the Black community needs, getting the answers that the American people need to make an informed decision. You can't take these people seriously, man. So when you have someone like Charlamagne the fraud here say, oh man, people just get over it and just move on. Well, give us a reason to move on. We're still waiting on her policies. We're still waiting on how is she going to improve things in this country.
On the issues, focus on the candidate who has an actual plan for America.
All right, so let me ask you, J.D. Vance is commenting on her. He's been trying to comment, to defend Trump's comments about her. And here's what he said to our Steve Cantor. I'm going to highlight one word here, but let me just play it.
Look, all he said is that Kamala Harris is a chameleon. She goes to Georgia 2 days ago. She was raised in Canada. She puts on a fake Southern accent. She is everything to everybody, and she pretends to be somebody different depending on which audience she's in front of. I think it's totally reasonable for the president to call that out, and that's all he did.
So he calls her a chameleon, and that's the exact same word, actually, Charlamagne, that his former friend, longtime friend, used to describe J.D. Vance to me. Here's what she said.
What I've seen is a chameleon, someone who is able to change their positions and their values depending on what will amass them political power and wealth. And I think that's really unfortunate because it reflects a lack of integrity.
I'll just note, Charlamagne, that he used the word chameleon after his friend used it. I don't know whether that, whether he saw that. It's very possible he did. But you write about this, that words matter. You talk about get honest or die lying. That's your new book. And it's about honesty in politics, right? So when people are using words like chameleon, that may be a word, but it gets at something that's quite deep, right? What is truth? And when is a person actually being genuine? How do you think about this, given where you sit every day, these calls that you get?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I have a chapter in my new book called The Language of Politics is Dead. And I talk about how tired we are of the way politicians talk to us and how everything is too safe and folks are too afraid to take chances. And I feel like the internet killed all that, like social media in particular. People have gotten used to hearing our ideas, and not just ideas, but news, all topics in just authentic ways. And two things that I love right now, my critique of the vice president was the person I've known since 2017, the person that, we used to see grilling people in Senate hearings. That individual had disappeared over the last few years. But over the last couple of months, whether it's been her, economic opportunity tour, or even after the way she stepped up after Biden's terrible debate performance, and of course now that, she's at the top of the ticket, I've seen that real person show up. Like I've seen that person, really come to the forefront. And I think, as long as we see more of the real her over the next 95 days, she can probably win this thing. So I'm definitely not seeing a chameleon in Vice President Kamala Harris right now. I'm seeing the person that I know on air and off air.
Credibility shot, but people do anything to be a part of that cabal that they call the Democratic Party. He's obviously bought and paid for. He's obviously a shield for the Democratic Party. He's a shield for Kamala, however you want to say her name. That's pretty obvious. There's too many clips out there of her saying Indian calling herself Indian. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I have friends that are Indian. I love those guys. They're good dudes. I love Indian food. There's nothing wrong with Indian people. Absolutely nothing wrong with them. They're good people, highest earning people in the country. Nothing wrong with it. But why is it that she feels the need to act like she's black, to say that she's black politically? Why? Now, you have the Indian community, who is the highest earning people in the country. And you got those that are black, or what people would call, ADOS, or, foundational Black Americans, people that actually have a direct lineage to the, Southern plantations and slavery. And there's a lot of, rhetoric out there around, just like when she was saying, it's right, they're not like us. She's not like us. Most of us, that would, quote unquote, that would consider themselves a foundational American or foundational Black American or American descendant of slave, whatever you want to use, whatever term you want to use. You know what I'm saying? Why is it that they keep doing this to us? Why is it that they keep trying to push people that don't necessarily come from the places that we come from? I can trace me. I know where my folks come from. Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina. They don't have the same roots. And to be honest with you, it shouldn't be about any of that. No, it shouldn't. But for whatever reason, the Democrats, that's where they wanted to take things. Think about all these calls. White dudes for Kamala, black women for Kamala, black men for Kamala, white women for Kamala. I would assume that there's some Asians for Kamala call or something along those lines. It's them that want to push us into these, into these boxes. It's the Democrat Party that wants to keep people divided, talking about race, because in the grand scheme of things, it's really just about being an American. It's really just about, those of us that live in this country. That's all it really matters. And most of us that live in this country, we want to know, how are you going to right the ship? Because right now, things aren't going well. That's all we really care about. But they've pushed people in this situation. They've forced people to have conversations around race that we should not be having in 2024 going into 2025. It's unbelievable to me. It's honestly really ridiculous that we still are having these types of conversations, that people are still so wrapped up in how much melanin they have in comparison to this nation, this great nation that we all live in. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. Drop me a comment down below. Hey, consider joining the ARP family. It supports the channel. God bless each person that has joined the ARP family thus far. I appreciate you all. Keep God first in your life. Stay prayed up. And I'm going to catch up with you all next time. Peace.